So let me just introduce myself. Hi, everyone, and hi, I hope you're doing well at these difficult times. I hope that you're enjoying AngularNL also. My name is Lamis. I'm a senior software engineer, as I said, working in Vermeg, based in Tunisia. And I've been into Angular for the past few years. I'm also involved in women empowerment communities. I'm actually a member of Women Who Code community and Women Who Code Frontend. And aside, I'm a speaker, mentor, trainer, and a content creator. And welcome everybody to my talk, a deep dive into RxJS WebSocket subject, in which I will explain to you the RxJS WebSocket subject, and which falls into the category of real-time topics. And I really believe that real-time is an interesting topic to consider these days. The demand for the real-time functionality is growing tremendously, so I've kept a keen eye on the real-time area. And as I'm working with Angular, I said to myself, why not putting this in place in my Angular application and implementing the real-time feature in my Angular application. So what I really want to do is achieving real-time updates, giving a WebSocket server which pushes the real-time data. So I want my Angular components in the front-end layer to react instantly to changes without having to click on a refresh button or trigger any kind of events. That's what I want to do. So I start to search for libraries to achieve this, and there are really great packages over there. Some implement the protocol, the Websocket Protocol. Others just are built on the top of the protocol with additional features. And there are great packages, but I don't really advise to add a third-party dependency to your project every time you have a new feature to implement, because it's a cost and you have to be careful and you have to study it carefully. You have to, because it will harm your bundle size, your performance maybe, and it will be, you have to check the community behind the maintainability, etc. So there are many criteria you have to check before you include a third-party dependency. And what I was surprisingly glad to know is that RxJS, which is a first-class citizen in Angular, ships with a special kind of subject, which is the RxJS WebSocket subject. And this really suits me because RxJS, as I said, is a first-class citizen in Angular, so I have the support out of the box, and I don't have to include any third-party dependency. And this is the heart of my talk today. I will take you into a journey, or my journey into WebSocket and RxJS. But before I start, let me just give you a little bit of background just to make everyone able to follow. So I think you may all be familiar with the Websocket Protocol, which has landed with HTML5 and is useful when you want to establish a double communication between your client and the server. I mean, communication in both ways, okay? And it's unlike HTTP, it's stateful communication protocol, which establish full duplex, bidirectional, and low latency. This is very important. It's really a low latency protocol, which establish a full duplex communication between your client and the server. And this communication is established after a successful handshake done over HTTP. And if I can explain the handshake, I would say it's a simple HTTP request just to tell the server that it's the client that requests the server to tell that I want to speak a different language. I will do a protocol upgrade. Do you understand this language? And if the server agrees, then a protocol upgrade will occur in the client layer, which is the 101 switching protocol. So if you're working with WebSockets and you're inspecting your network to see the outgoing request, then you will see this first handshake, which is done through HTTP. Then the following requests will be done through WebSocket. And this is the protocol I am using, and I have a WebSocket server that pushes the latest version of the data over the time that I want to consume in my client layer. So I was using RxJS WebSocket subject, which supports WebSocket. And by definition, the RxJS WebSocket subject is a wrapper around the W3C compatible WebSocket object available in the browser, and it allows to both send and receive messages through a WebSocket connection. And it's a special kind of subject, so it's nothing but a regular RxJS subject. I mean, it's at the same time an observer, and it's an observable. So you can subscribe to in order to get data, and through this subject also you can send data to all the observers. And yeah, so this is how you can communicate your observers with the subject. Now, how to use it in order to establish these real-time updates. So in order to use it, all that you have to do is calling the WebSocket factory function available in the RxJS WebSocket package. Okay, this function takes into parameter the URL of your WebSocket endpoint and returns a ready-to-use subject. Okay, and you can, for the URL, you can whether use WS for WebSocket and WSS for secure WebSockets. I have put both WSS, okay, so it's WS or WSS. And there are two ways to create, or let me, to be more accurate, there are two types supported by this function. The first type is the string, regular string, which represents the URL of your WebSocket endpoint, or you can provide a whole object, okay, which is a special kind of object. It's the WebSocket subject config that I will detail later in this presentation. But just at this level, put in mind that there are two ways to call the WebSocket factory function, whether by giving a parameter, a string parameter, or giving the whole a whole object in which you put the URL as a key. So this is for the creation. Now, once you created this, once you call this function, you will have a ready-to-use subject that this function will return, that you can subscribe to in order to establish the connection with your server. Okay, so there is no connection before subscription. If you create the WebSocket subject and you don't subscribe, there is no connection. So the connection is established once you subscribe. And starting from this point, you can be able to receive messages from the server. And because the WebSocket subject will emit these messages to you, the subscriber, and you will be able also to send messages to your server through the next method, the regular next method of the of every RxJS subject. And once you're done, you can release this connection by calling complete on the subject or unsubscribe. So this way you can release the connection. This is the basic life cycle. And if I translate this into code, it will look like this. So here I am calling the WebSocket factory function with the parameter string, with the string parameter representing my WebSocket endpoint. And to listen to upcoming messages from the server, I will subscribe to this subject, and this way I can receive messages. And to push messages to the server, so this for the outgoing messages the other way, I just call the next method and put my message. Okay, so this is the basic example. Now, does many subscribers mean different sockets connection? So as I said, that there's no connection before subscription. Okay, and many subscribers can subscribe to the WebSocket subject. Does this mean that after every subscription, a connection is established? And the answer is hopefully no, because this is very, it will harm your performance. It's resource expensive. So actually, in order to solve this, if many subscribers have, there are many subscribers to the same instance of the WebSocket subject, then they will share the same connection. Okay, so this is very good to save resources. But however, if there are two instances of WebSocket subject, even if they are pointing out the same URL, then they will systematically establish two different connections. And if we translate this into code, it will look like this. Okay, so I put, just to see it clear, I put two subjects, okay, first subject and second subject. I am calling the WebSocket factory function with the same URL in both subjects, okay? And I've done the first subscription. So the first subscription is done to this subject, and this will opens the WebSocket connection because, as I said, when you subscribe, WebSocket connection is open. Now, a second subscriber arrives and subscribe again to the same subject. Look here, I have the same instance of the WebSocket subject. Then this will not open a new connection, but as there is already a connection opened over this URL or over this socket, then this subject will use the already opened WebSocket connection. That's good. Now we have a third subscriber that arrives and subscribes to the second subject, okay, which is pointing out the same URL, but it's another instance, okay? In memory, it's another variable, another instance. So this will opens a new connection, even though there's already an opened one, but in other instance. So be careful just to, I want you to understand how the subscription and the creation of the connection works. And so this was about the connection and the subscription. Now, that socket connection closes when a consumer unsubscribes, okay? As they are sharing the same connection. That's good, that's amazing. So if one subscriber unsubscribes, and as I said before, the unsubscription means the release of the connection, that the other subscriber will be affected by this. And the answer, hopefully again, is no. Okay, so the socket connection will be closed unless there are no more subscribers still listening. And if we look into the code, this means given, for example, this subject again, I call the WebSocket factory function with the WebSocket URL endpoint. I'm subscribing here. This is the first subscription, which opens a new connection. The second one will use the already opened connection. Now, if the first subscriber decides to unsubscribe, then the connection will stay open because the subscription to still needs this WebSocket connection. And once the subscription to unsubscribes, then the connection will be released. Yeah, and this that's concerning the unsubscription and the release of the connection. Now, what about error handling? So as we are working with a regular subject, so in order to notify the server that there is an error or an error occurs for whatever reason, you just call the error method and given it a special kind of object which takes two parameters, the code of the error and the reason, okay? So this way, the server is notified that an error occurs. And in the other way, if an error is coming from the server, I mean, if the server throws an error, then you can register callback, okay, in order to process this error, to handle it, or to notify the end user that something wrong happens. And you just register an error callback. And you have here three callbacks: a callback to process the message. The first one, the second one is a callback to process the error, and the final callback is the callback for completion. Okay, it will be invoked if the server stops or something wrong happens. The connection is completed. Just keep in mind something, that the error method, when you call the error method, it will notify the server and completes the connection, okay? It will closes the connection. And keep in mind this, okay? It's the same as complete. Error reacts the same way as complete, but with a small difference. It notifies the servers before closing the connection. So the previous life cycle will be updated with the error event, which will notify the server and then complete the connection. In this way, we have the whole picture, if you want, and the whole life cycle. Those are the possible events through the WebSocket subject. Now, let's move to another question. Are outgoing messages lost when the connection is down? I mean, if I am sending a message to the server using Next, and for whatever reason, the server shuts down, or maybe I forgot to subscribe and I call the Next, what happened to those outgoing messages? Are they lost? Hopefully, again, the messages are not lost, but they are buffered for you. And the Rxgs WebSocket subject implementation cares of this part. I mean, it buffers the message so they are so they can be reached in the first reconnection. Okay, in the first reconnection, it will be sent to the server. And let's move now to the Rxgs WebSocket subject config I told you about earlier in this talk. So as I said, there are two ways to create the WebSocket subject, even by calling the WebSocket with the string parameter, or calling the WebSocket factory function with an object, which is the WebSocket subject config. And this object, I believe that this object makes this API highly customizable, okay? Because you can provide specific behavior if you have, for example, specific behavior to provide in specific moments of the life cycle of the WebSocket life cycle, then you can provide this in this subject. For example, you have to override the opening of the connection to provide a custom test or a custom process. Then you can do it. Then you can provide your process, I mean the process you want to call, in the open observer property. There is the close observer property also to provide specific behavior or custom behavior in the closure of the socket connection. You can provide the protocol, you can provide the binary type, you can also customize the serialization and deserialization methods. And this is also very used because by default, the outgoing messages are serialized through JSON.parse. The other way, for the deserialization, the implementation of Rxgs use I'm sorry, for the deserialization is JSON.parse. For the serialization is stringify. And you can provide your custom serialization or deserialization methods to support any type of messages you want. Okay, this also through this WebSocket subject config. So this is the idea behind this WebSocket subject config. It enable to customize the socket, okay, the socket lifecycle, serialization, deserialization, and all this stuff. And here is an example. Here I was using the second way to create the WebSocket subject. I provide an object which has a URL key. Here you have the WebSocket endpoint. And here are my functions, the open observer, close observer, in which I am just doing a log, okay, to show you an example. But I will show you later in the demo a real world example for this. And here for the deserializer and serializer, I kept those by default, but just to show you how you implement it and the spirit behind. So this is the idea behind the RxJS WebSocket subject config. Now, what are the types of messages supported? What are the supported types of messages? Well, text messages are supported, and also binary types, blob and binary types. Okay, and here is an example. If you have a binary type, an array buffer, in my case here, in my example, you just have to choose the second way of creation. You provide your customization and you're done. Here I am using the WebSocket factory function. I am putting the property binary type to array buffer, putting my URL, and providing code for serialization. Okay, this is how I want the WebSocket to behave for the serialization. I'm using the unit 8 array, and you can use many packages to deal with blob types. Okay, this is an example, right? So this way, you're done with this type of customization. And if you want to check out the list of all the properties and all the customizations possible, just check the RxJS official documentation. I put the link in my slides. You can check it later. Now, how to handle the reconnection, or does it support a reconnection? Well, this answer, so does it support reconnection? The answer is no, because neither the WebSocket protocol do. The WebSocket protocol does not support reconnection, and RxJS WebSocket subject does not support also the reconnection mechanism. But you can easily implement the reconnection capability using RxJS. All that you have to do is just providing a custom behavior and the closure of the observer. Okay, so if the server shuts down for whatever reason, at the moment, the RxJS WebSocket subject will complete, and it will no longer emit values for you. Okay, and this is not the behavior of the real-time world. The reconnection capability is really a must. Okay, so at the moment it will complete and will no longer emit values for you. But if it closes for whatever reason, it will fall into the close observer function I showed you in the RxJS WebSocket subject config. And in this part of code, we can implement the reconnection mechanism and just try to reconnect by using some of the cool RxJS operators. And I will show you the example. Stay tuned in some seconds. Yeah, now here I will shed some light about the architecture to adopt as I am working with an Angular application, so this is the recommended pattern. So I recommend to externalize all the logic behind the WebSocket, how you handle the WebSocket reconnection, etc., in one service, and inject this service in your components, or to be more accurate, in your live components, as I call them. Okay, when I say live, it means the component that will react to change immediately and will handle those real-time updates. So in your component, you just connect to this WebSocket service, and you just process the stream of the real-time updates. This is the recommended pattern. Now, let's see some code. I think it's time to see something. So I will show you here's my VS Code. Okay, so I put both the client application and the server application in the same workspace. For the server, I am using a Node.js server, okay, and it's I used to deal with WebSockets. I am using the WS Node package. It's very popular, and so this is an example. You can use pretty much any technology you want, Java, .NET, every technology you want. I'm just using here Node as an example, and as it's an event-based protocol, the WebSocket it's an event-based protocol. So you just here put what you want to do when the connection is established, when the message is received, when an error occurs, when the closure, when the socket is closed, etc., so on and so forth. So this is how you deal with event-based APIs. And okay, so I will show you now. I will test if you want this WebSocket server. I have a cool plugin here, which is Smart WebSocket client. You can use it. Okay, I am using it to just test my WebSocket backend. Okay, so I am listening on port 8081. So I will put this, and I connect, and you will see here all the real-time data. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's it. So here you have the real-time data, and I can test here my WebSocket server. Okay, so this is a good plugin to test. Now let's come back to the client part, which is the most important part of this talk. Okay, so here is my Angular application. I will close this. Yeah, I will begin by showing you my Angular application before showing you the code. So here is my real-time Angular application. Okay, I'm using the version 10 of Angular, Prime NG9, and that's it. Okay, I'm not including no third-party dependencies. And here is my live table, if you want. This is the real-time component, which is the live table component. Now I will show you the code behind this application. So let's focus on the real-time component, which is the heart of this talk. So here, this is the live table component, okay? And this is the service I told you in the recommended pattern you should to provide. I have here one service that deals with the WebSocket. And this is the most important service in my application, in my real-time application, because without the service, there's no WebSocket. And here in this service, I have some methods: the connection method, reconnection method, close method, the method that closes the connection, send message, which will send the messages to the server, and get new WebSocket. This method, it's the method that will create the WebSocket, okay? So this method calls the WebSocket factory function available under the Rxgs WebSocket subject, and with the parameter object, okay? So I provide here my URL, the URL of my WebSocket endpoint, and here just put in this in the environment file, okay, because I have to centralize it, and I recommend to centralize it in the environment, because in most cases it depends from of the environment, okay. In production and development, there are different endpoints in general, okay. So here is the WebSocket endpoint, and I am just putting a custom behavior in the opening of the observer. For my part here, I am just calling the console.log to just ensure that everything is fine and the connection is okay for this example. Okay, and for the close observer, I am trying to reconnect. Okay, so here is the reconnection part. Okay, so here I am calling the connect method with the reconnect property set to true. And I will show you the implementation of the connection method. But before, I just want to tell you that the result of this WebSocket of calling this method is of course a WebSocket subject, which that I will store in a specific variable, which is socket $, and I will work with this variable in the other methods. But in the closing of the of the connection here, I mean in this function, I have to empty this variable, okay, to create another instance in every reconnection attempt. Okay, because the instance created that will complete, so it will no longer emit values. So I just have to empty the space and put the right instance in it. So this is the implementation of the get new WebSocket method, which is the most basic method. Now let's move to the second important one, which is the connect method. Okay, so if you look here closely, the connection method or the connect method takes into parameter an object holding the reconnect property, which is by default false, and I call it to true when I want to reconnect, and when I want to reconnect when the connection is closed. Okay, so this is the part in which I am calling the connection. And what I do, it's nothing fancy. I just test if there is no instance already created, or if the instance is closed. I mean, the subject is closed. And if not, I create a new one. I store it in the socket $ variable, which represent my WebSocket subject. And I am processing this variable, I mean, the WebSocket subject again, to, I process this subject by implementing a custom operator, which is the reconnect operator, okay? So if I am not in a reconnection mode, then I don't do anything. I am just doing some kind of tab to just handle the error, and that's it. And if I am in a reconnection mode, then I will call the reconnect function, which is my reconnect operator. And this reconnect operator will try to retry the connection. Okay, I am using the Rxgs retry when operator and delay when. Okay, and timer operator. I'm just combining those three operators to try every reconnect interval to reach the connection again. Okay, so every reconnect interval, I am trying to retry this subject. Okay, so this is how I did it. And I put the reconnect interval in the environment also. Here, I think I am, every 2000 milliseconds, so 2 seconds, every 2 seconds, I'm trying to reattempt the connection. And I am putting the result here of this pipe, which is an observable and a variable that I am sending to this messages subject. And this pattern is important. I am here this is a private subject, and it's like a wrapper around the incoming and processed observable. It will deal with the unsubscription, with the switch all, and handle the error, okay? And it will be not exposed, okay, to the external world, okay? It's not public, it's private. I deal with this wrapper, and then I just expose it in the messages dollar after process it like this, okay? And yeah, so to conclude, the messages variable is the variable that will hold my incoming messages in my real-time messages, and this variable is public, so that the external world can use it in order to process the real-time updates. And that's it. I think that the send message is nothing but calling the next method, and the close, just call the complete and empty the content of the variable socket dollar, because it's very important to empty the variable, because it's kind of singleton variable that I am working with. And that's it. So I have all my logic in here. How to handle reconnection, how to handle connection, the incoming messages, how to process those incoming messages, how to unsubscribe to some observables, etc. So all this is put in one place. And in my live table component, I just call this messages variable, okay, and putting it in an asynchronous structure. Also, it is here I have transactions that this variable holds the list of my real-time transactions. I just call the messages, and I processing it to just change the structure of the incoming data, okay, because I need a specific kind of object to process. And here in the ng after view init, I am just calling the connect. This is important because the connection should be called at least once in order to start listening and to emit values. Okay, this way the messages dollar can hold the real-time values. And but still not enough. Okay, still not enough. I have something to do, something left to do, which is subscription to this observable that I will do in my HTML component through the asynchronous pipe. I am using the asynchronous pipe to deal with the unsubscription, subscription. For me, I don't want to handle this part. So the asynchronous part is the management of the subscription and unsubscription is done through the asynchronous pipe and in my HTML component, and that's it. I mean, I just this will make things work. And if you want to enhance further, you can change the change detection strategy. I mean, you can put it on push to gain in performance, because you have to deal with performance with in the real-time world. I mean, your component will re-render every interval, okay? So you have to re-render and the DOM will be updated, etc. So you have to optimize and think of optimization some way. And the first basic thing to do is changing the change detection strategy to on push. And
Lamis, sorry to interrupt you. You would need to wrap up your. Hope you're close to wrapping up your talk, because we're going a little bit over time. This one.
I'm not hearing very well.
Let me see. So yeah, I hope you're close to wrapping up. Yeah, we need to continue the conference with the next speaker in a few moments.
Okay. I have only 5 minutes left.
I think it's a bit less, more like 2.
2 minutes. Okay, so I will accelerate. Okay, so and here I will show you the reconnection mechanism. So if you, for example, stop the server, okay, I will stop it. So there are no longer updates here showing up. And I will here now reconnect again. And things will get better. Okay, so there is updates coming from my WebSocket server, and here you can find the reconnection attempt. And I don't have very much time, but there are another cool feature I want to talk about, which is the Rxgs WebSocket multiplexing, and which will be which is very important to work around the event typing of the WebSocket. So so if you have, for example, many real-time components, then you don't have to provide a specific connection for every component. You just use this multiplexing method. And unfortunately, I don't have so many time to explain all this, but thank you and stay safe. You can reach me in the Q&A session, maybe to explain it further.